Hey guys, this is Mel, and I am back to talk about the 100, episode 709, titled The Flock, which premiered Wednesday, July 15th, 2020 on the CW. Huge spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the episode already, please go do so first, and then come back and see what I have to say about the episode. My other video reminders are up on screen, so take a moment to remind yourselves of those. Huge shout out to Ronan Gallagher, Elvis, Ibrahimov, Kov, Aroha, Kay Stevenson, which I missed from my 707 video, and then as well as Ben Dover. Thank you so much for all your comments from my 708 video. I did want to bring up, since a lot of people, or a few comments were bringing up my interpretation of how the flashbacks were given. I completely understand that. I know that the flashbacks, which was essentially the backdoor pilot aspect, were meant to show us like all the information, but for me, the way that it was displayed in the episode, where it was Bill talking to Clark, and then it just gave off the impression that he was going to tell her like why he's involved, and then they go right into the flashbacks. That's giving me the impression that he's telling them something. So if they had maybe, or plus also every other time a flashback has been invoked on the show, it is always a different character telling our own regular characters what their version of the events, and then we as the audience get to see a play out in the flashback. So with that already in place, why wouldn't I also assume that the same thing is going to happen in this scenario itself? Plus the way that they kind of started and ended the episode with Clark and Bill on both sides in a way that made it seem like either A, he just finished telling them and that's the whole middle part of the episode and now they're back into the conversation, or B, where it's like they started off at the beginning and then they're on a standstill and then they just quickly pick off as if he didn't just tell them anything. So that's the case. The only way that this issue could be relieved for me and is the fact that if Clark actually did have the flame. Because my whole issue is the fact that how is Bill telling things from Callie's point of view? Well, if Clark still had the flame, then I can understand why she would be getting this story through Callie's point of view, because it would be assumed that Callie's in the flame as the second commander. But because that wasn't the case, that's why I've always had a bit of confusion there. So I just wanted to put that out there before I really start on my video. Also, thank you to Arohi for saying that it wasn't Kelly, but it was Callie. I can understand that now, how I could have misheard the two names, but I think it's because he said Kelly and then Calliope. That's why I thought of them as two distinct names, because he doesn't call her Callie until later on. So maybe that's why it didn't click for me, but thank you for that. There's that. And then also Ben, I too was disappointed about Bellamy not being in the backdoor pilot, but I kind of also assumed that most of our characters weren't going to be in it to begin with. But those synopses telling like, and also starring, and yet they're not, it is a little misleading. I will give you that. So with all that taken care of, guys, I will try to do this video in 20 minutes. Based off my sheet of notes, I think I can do it. We all know I have failed in the past before, but fingers crossed. So I'll start the clock, and let's begin with what happened in 709. So first off, the timeline. I might have to bring up the timeline chart again. I don't know just yet, but technically, when it comes to Sanctum, we are continuing from where 707 ended off, and that is with Aegis and the Cogs teaming up to take on hostages within the palace. But also, with that said, we do find out that Indra has been gone for half a day when she reappears in this episode, when she was last seen in 706. And yet, from my diagram, I read that 706 and 707 are completely different days, so that means 707 and 709 on Sanctum are actually still the same day, unless 706 is supposed to be tied in to like just the second half of that same day with 707 and 709. I have no idea. Again, this is why I need actual dates, because things like this piss me off. But there's that. And then also when it comes to Bardo, we are actually taking place within that 6-month time jump that we got in Bardo within 707. So from the time that our characters originally were captured and betrayed by Gabriel to the time that Clark and the others arrived, and we have Gabriel working for the Cypher team, and we have Octavia and the others being disciples. we're now in that episode getting that 3-month gap and what happened to get them to disciple stage. So there's that. Episode reminder, the fact that this episode is called The Flock, you can kind of refer that to the whole, all the disciples and learning about them. But also Shaheda kind of makes an analogy about the king and the subjects, and then like the shepherd and his sheep kind of a thing. So you kind of reference it that way as well too. Episode objective, pretty much for Sanctum, it's save the people. And then with Bardo, it's pretty much learning about their lifestyle and figure out why exactly we should be fighting for them and not against them. So there's that. So episode breakdown of the storylines. Again, by location, we got Bardo and Sanctum. With Bardo, again, I mentioned it's within the 3-month gap, and it's focusing on how Octavia, Echo, Diyoza, and Hope become or train to become disciples or to prove that they're worthy. I don't know if by the time like they start to the time like they graduate, if that's meant to be the full 3 months. I don't know, but it's meant to take place in that part of it. So there's that. So we also find out Bardo's way of life, how they work, what's keeping them underground, kind of a thing. Also, we find out that the last war against humanity is against something that killed the original inhabitants of the planet. The Bardodians are calling it. I don't know if that's actually like another force that they can actually fight against, or if it's just like some bioweapon virus thing that they were fighting. I don't know. It was a little hard to hear because they were wearing the mask while they were explaining it. So this is probably the episode where, or that moment specifically, is where I would need to go to Netflix so I can have those subtitles put up so I can actually read what it is they're saying, because the mask made it a little hard to hear. But also those masks kind of reminded me of, what was it? The rebreathers from Spy Kids. I think it was number 2. Kind of reminded me of that a little bit when they were calling upon it. And then I've read people say they kind of reminded them of Mortal Kombat as well too. So it's like, I could totally see that. So that's a side note, but there's that. But also we do see Anders giving the ladies the ultimatum that if they are either willing to join the cause and fight for humanity's last chance, or they're gonna be sent back to Penance, aka Skyring, to live out a life sentence there by themselves. So pretty much it's either you fight for them or you go die. You live out your life alone, kind of a thing. Plus, if that's the case, they might not even send other prisoners there while they're serving their sentence. So yeah, there's that. By the time the whole training thing happens, they go through a few tests. I think there's 3 tests that they go through specifically that we see, and we find out that Echo is the star student. She's adapted very well, and she seems to understand their way of thinking and seems to be on board, while Hope fails as recruit, being the most resistive of the 4 of them. And Anders gives Echo the opportunity to give Hope her punishment, and she does that by sentencing her to Skyring for 5 years. And Hope is not taking that very well. Well, though in that scene, though, it kind of looked like Diyoza and Octavia were kind of giving Echo side glances as if asking, like, what the hell are you doing? What are you up to, kind of a thing. And Echo just doesn't look at them. So I have questions about that later. So there's that. Now we go to Skyring, and this is dealing with Nikki's convicts and Nelson's cogs, all having 30 hostages within the palace, including Emori and Maddie. And they give 20 minutes before they kill hostages off for Murphy, Russell, and Raven to come to them. Essentially, they wanted the 3 primes to expose themselves as not really primes, and then Raven just because Nikki has her own vendetta against her because of Hatch. So there's that. In the end, though, to the 30 hostages, which were the faithful, they are told that the primes are dead. Murphy and Emori reveal their original identities. Shaheda kind of does in the same way, but he doesn't reveal that he's Shaheda. He just reveals that he's someone else that has inhabited Russell's body. So there's that. That really shatters their faith. Indra and Wonkru come in to save the day. In the end, Indra leaves Shaheda with the vengeful faithful now in the same room, thinking that they would kill him, but he ultimately kills them, and in doing so, he reveals to one crew that he is actually Shaheda. I think Murphy kind of lets it slip first, but I think after his whole bloody display, which is the last moment of the episode, which is a very bloody Shaheda standing in the middle of a room full of dead faithfuls, and him speaking in their language, saying that his fight is just beginning. And then two of the members of one crew kneel immediately before him. Murphy and Amori look worried, but I don't know if one crew would know if that is actually Shaheda if it weren't for Murphy saying his name specifically. So I don't know if that one slip is what really did it in, or if it's also the display of skill, the knowledge of the language would have been enough to convince them. Like, you know what I mean? So I don't know. So there's that. Characters, not much, since it was mostly through the storylines itself we got things revealed. Except, side note, Levitt is a level 11 of the 12 levels of being a disciple, while Octavia, Echo, Dioza become official level 2s and get their faces tattooed. It is not clear how one advances to the next level, or if they all just start off at specific levels, depending on where their entry level into, like, training is. Or if, like, it is, like, if it is a promotion type thing where you go from level 1, level 2, level 3, regardless of what field. Or maybe Levitt's level 11 because he's specifically in medical. And maybe level 2 is strictly soldier, instead of, like, Levitt having to go through the previous 10 stages or not. Like, I don't know how that works. They didn't really explain that. So that's something there. Tidbit, though, I did mention that Indra had come back after being gone for half a day, but she does come back with the news that their friends are gone and the only bodies left at Gabriel's camp are all dead. This leads Jackson to be worried for Nate, and Indra taking note of the fact that Gaia was with them and she wasn't there at the camp. So they still believe they're all gone, but they know that they can handle themselves, so they're not too worried as they now focus on Amori and the rest of the hostages. So there's that. We also have Anders knowing that Hope was trained by Dev in Orlando, and Dev seems to be a very sensitive subject to Hope as opposed to Orlando, so that's something there. We also find out from Levitt, because we find out that the air pretty much calcifies anybody on the surface of Bardo, we find out that Levitt wanted to lead them there because they would have about an hour or two of survivable airtime, which would have bought him enough time to think of a plan. But then it's also like, well, where were they supposed to go in order to, like, get new air if the 2 hours had kind of run out? So that's questionable there. But so there's that. We also do find out a total number of 25 disciples have been killed since our people have jumped through the anomaly for the very first time in 608. So that's a number there. And for ship status, not really much. I will point out, though, there was a Bellamy and Clark moment that I completely missed last episode. And I don't understand why, but it was just Clark calling Bellamy her best friend. I don't know how I missed that. Maybe I just thought that she was referring to somebody else, but maybe it's because I refused to believe that Bellamy is dead that it didn't click that they were talking about Bellamy in that moment. But apparently I needed to mention that. We also get Murphy and Amori and how he needs to save her, and he was willing to jump into danger to go save her instead of thinking up of a plan first, which is huge growth on Murphy's part considering who he was in season 1. I mean, granted, he's always been protective when it came to Amori, but it's very interesting to see this season him become more of the hero than he claims he's not, kind of a thing. So that's something there. And then we get more with Levitt and Octavia. They actually hook up in this episode. We don't know if it's only just a one-time thing, but it's something. So there is that. But let's move on to the most shocking moment of the episode. I think the fact that Echo killed Hope, I mean, it was revealed to be the last test simulation, but when that moment happened, I thought that was like what actually happened, because as you remember, when the three of them appeared in front of Clark and the others, Hope wasn't one of them. So I thought when I first saw Echo killing Hope, I thought, oh, maybe that's why she wasn't actually with them when they reunited with Clark and them. So it's like, it made sense. But then to find out that it was all a simulation, it's like, oh, right, okay. That makes sense too, but like that was the shock part, that the fact that that her absence could have been because she was killed by one of their own. So that is something. If anything, like I thought maybe like she was put in a cell and that's why she wasn't appearing at the end of 708. But then to find out that like maybe one of them killed her, and then it was like, oh, maybe that's why. But then it's like, no, that was just a test, and she actually is in a cell. So it's like, oh, I was originally right. So there's that. And another shocking moment, I guess, really depends, is Shaheda taking back control, or taking back as much control that he was able to, is probably the surprise. Maybe. Kinda. I mean, that's a surprising moment for the Sanctum part, I guess I could say. So there's that. But I just realized I skipped over parallels. Maybe it's because I reformatted it on my sheet and I just completely disregarded it. But let's talk about parallels. I actually had parallels. So, first parallel was the fact that Hope wanted to burn the oxygen farm. In 3 of the 4 simulations, Hope wanted to burn the oxygen farm in order to kind of destroy Bardo and the people there. That would parallel Octavia burning down the farm in the Second Dawn bunker, which would have forced Wand Crew to continue through the desert to Shallow Valley or to Eden. So that was a parallel there in itself. Plus, also the sense you can kind of parallel it to the fact that Hope wanting to destroy Bardo civilization for taking away a lot of things from her. You can kind of compare that to what happened in season 2 with Mount Weather, how they pretty much eradicated all the mountain people because of what they did to the Sky Crew. So that's paralleling it there. Another, again, which ties into the other parallel, which is our introduction to Bardo's way of life underground and how they have experienced life being very different, is similar to how Clark was introduced to the way Mount Weather was living underground, how they've had to adapt, how they had to make things work. So that is something there as well. I mean, you can kind of do it when Clark also similarly got a tour when she went to Polis for the first time. I mean, we kind of got bits and pieces throughout in the previous 2 seasons for that, but I think particularly with Mount Weather and Bardo's, where they two parallel heavily with each other, so that is something there. So, can't believe I forgot to say that, but now let's just jump into the original audio. Now, go. Moving on to favorite moments, top favorite moments. I think the dynamic between Octavia, Echo, Dioza, and Hope, I thought that one was really great. It was very interesting to see just not only how the 4 of them interact with each other, but you can see the very distinct differences, how they carry each of them. So it's like you have the 3 experienced warriors with Dioza, Echo, and Octavia. You have Levitt even pointing that out to Anders, that these 3 ladies have fought many battles. They've killed more people than he's ever seen, and they've been trained for this. Versus Hope, who has never seen true combat except from like the 1 or 2 fights that she's actually been in her life when she got off Skyring. Most of them are on Skyring, but it's like it hasn't been to the extent of what the other 3 have had to live through, and kind of not to make it seem like Hope hasn't had her struggles. That's not what I'm saying, but it's very evident how different the experience levels are between the 2 sets, because also you have these 3 experienced warriors able to get a handle of their emotions and know when the right time is to fall in the emotion than to actually hold back from it. And then you have, because we have seen all 3 of them make moves out of rage and kind of take a step back and realize that wasn't the best option, and now they're holding restraint and trying to think in the long run, what are they going to do? And then you have Hope, who is very explosive. She is very consumed by her rage. So it's like, it's very different. Also, Hope right now kind of reminds me of Octavia in the very beginning, when she was just becoming a warrior, when she just lost Lincoln. So it is very interesting to see how different their levels of restraint were when it came to their emotions. Also, Hope's inability just to hold her, to like keep her cards close to her chest. Like even the fact, like when all 4 of them were talking in the room and they were telling her, you got to get a hold of your emotions. They're watching you every single moment. You got to pull it back and kind of like tell her like, just take notice, buy into it, play the part, and like stay alive kind of thing, when Hope was just refusing to do that. So I thought that was pretty interesting there. Plus, what was also interesting was the testing they each had to go through. It's very interesting to see varying versions of it, but also see who we got to focus on more. Like, especially with Echo breaking the rules to win that shooting test. I thought it was a callback to her spy days, where she pretty much broke every rule to get the job done, kind of a thing. So, like, that kind of, like, brought a little bit of the old Echo out in there. Also, I thought it was very interesting that even though we saw Echo's full test with Hope being the one with the flamethrower, I thought it was very interesting that with Octavia, the difference with her test, even though Hope was the one with that she had to kill in that simulation, it was interesting that for Octavia, the way that she killed Hope was through close quarter combat, with her stabbing her in the stomach, as opposed to Diyozo and Echo having thrown their knives from a distance to have it impale her in the neck. So I thought that was very interesting to just see how Octavia differed that way. So that was something there. Granted, it's bad that they all three decided to kill Hope in the end, but it was just like, it's also very telling for them to know, as the three warriors, they see the bigger picture. Hope wants to kill everyone in Bardo as revenge, when Octavia has already experienced that with Mount Weather, and also with the bunker, the Second Dawn bunker, by doing the burning herself. We have Echo kind of already doing that with Mount Weather again, when she killed Farm Station in that Asgeda mission, and then you have Diyozo doing that from her time as the freedom fighter when Earth was still Earth. So it's something there, right? So it's like, that's something. And then another favorite I did have was just, I'm going to keep it short and simple, is Octavia and Levitt. The fact that we see their interactions continuing. We see him going to see her and checking up on her and making sure that she's okay, then telling her that you need to pass this test, it's imperative, and then having them get closer and like talking about emotions and how she needs to keep them restrained and she's not able to. And he's like, well, what's wrong with like showing your emotion? That's how they got into it together. But then also during that whole shooting test, he strictly went to Octavia first and was consumed by making sure she was okay before he looked to the other recruits to check if they were okay. So it's like, you can see his sole focus is going to her, the fact that she still has faith in him and that he wouldn't lead her astray, kind of a thing. So it's very interesting to see the loyalty between the two of them as well. Now I just really hope that he survives to the very end, because I want the both of them to live and have a peaceful life at the end of the 100. That's the goal now. I don't need him having the same fate as Lincoln. I don't know what that would do to Octavia afterwards. So there's that. Another thing that's a favorite. This really should not be a favorite, but it is. And it is Shaheda winning once again. I mean, he's showing time and time again that he's a very formidable opponent. It's just that, yes, he killed the room full of faithfuls. I shouldn't find that be a favorable moment. Because, one, he got rid of a very troublesome group, which violence should not be the answer, but in the scope of the 100, that seems to be the answer. So, he was able to do it. And the way he did it, the way he did his speech, the way he just had this imposing presence to him, and then the fact that you come in and see him all bloodied, surrounded by bodies, just only further confirms how dangerous he is and how very skilled he is. I mean, we got a bit of it when he was up against Nelson with only one arm fighting him, but then to really get it when he was fighting all these people off. Granted, they weren't really experienced fighters, but it's like to the efficiency that he was able to do it in. I know that I'm not supposed to like it, but like, it's those displays that really further showcase how skillful a person is. I'm probably a bad person thinking that. But because of that scene, what I really like, and or at least I want to say, is take note of the fact Murphy's reaction to locking Shaheda in with all the faithfuls, and Amori and Indra willing to leave him there with the idea that the faithful were going to kill Shaheda. And Murphy was kind of like, no, that doesn't seem right. which is like very different to the, like I said before, Murphy has such huge growth where I could have seen like season 1 Murphy just walking away, being told you're not needed. It's like, all right, fine, I leave. And him walking away. Here, he does the opposite. And he's like, well, this seems wrong. And he's the one that realizes that, no, the people aren't killing Shaheda. He's killing them like he wanted. So it's like, it's a huge moment of further growth for Murphy, because he's not just caring about Amori, but he's caring about not only his people, the space crew, but he's caring about Wand crew. He's caring about the people of Sanctum as well, too. So it's like huge growth to a guy who was just a lone cockroach who didn't care about anyone but himself. So Murphy has come a long way. So there's that. And also, another favorite is the fact that, and the timer just went off. I failed again. Surprise, surprise. But favorite part is the fact we actually got to have a tour of Bardo, and we actually got to see not only the type of technology they have, but the type of weaponry that they have, and also the classroom setting as well too. What are they teaching the children? And also they're of the mindset that children don't have parents. They're being raised by a team, but collective kind of thing, because there isn't parents that conceive them. They just are, they're kind of like test tube babies, and then they genetically engineer them if there are medical defects that come their way, and they change the code to make them stronger and healthier again. So they wouldn't have parents. So they have a team assigned to them to care for them until they are of age to join the ranks, kind of a thing. So that's an interesting system in itself. So I would definitely love to see more of how that happened as well, and how that would work, because theoretically I could see why. But yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that. But I really like that we got to see a little bit of each aspect while Levitt was showing our characters around and kind of explaining it to them in a way that like made sense. So that was pretty cool. I kind of would have expected that in the episode titled Welcome to Bardo, but I like how they spanned it out for the moment as well. But sorry, I had like an incoming call coming through. So yeah, and my recording's still going, so we're good. So let's move on to top 3 peeved moments. A peeve I had was the fact that Indra was going to leave Shaheda in a room full of faithfuls. I mean, I get why, because she was saying like she wanted to kill a demon, but what makes her think a mob of inexperienced fighters or non-fighters, because they're supposed, like, they're pretty much pacifists, what makes her think that they would come together and have the guts to kill this very deadly killer that is Shaheda, that she had nightmares about as a kid? What makes her think they would get the job done that she is not able to do herself? So that's kind of what pissed me off, the fact that she will not only leave thinking the job would get done, because I would think if something so huge that it was, I would assume she would stay there until she knew for sure the job was done, or she didn't leave until the job got done. You know what I mean? So it's just like, I got annoyed that she just left it there. And like, I understand why she'd want to do everything to like get rid of him, but then it's like at the same time, it's like, what makes you think these people who have not fought a day in their life would have the guts to do so, even in their rage? You know what I mean? So that's something. Unless she really thought that like him being restrained was going to give the faithfuls the upper hand, I wouldn't have not taken that. We've seen him fight while having one arm broken. I don't think he would have been too hindered with his hands being shackled together. He would have used that to his advantage, I'm sure. So that was a peeve there. Another peeve I did have was the whole classroom setup, which was really nice and sweet, but I really thought it was a missed opportunity for me to learn what those symbols actually mean. Even if it wasn't in conversation, I would have thought maybe on the wall, maybe like in a background where it had like the phonics cards where it had symbols and the meaning underneath it or something. Maybe it did happen and it just happened too fast where I couldn't pause it to really take a note and further glance. Maybe it did. But I was a little peeved that that classroom said it was a missed opportunity to learn actually something about these symbols and what they mean and everything. Granted, it was a classroom full of little kids, so maybe it's above their little pay grade thing, but there's that. But let's move on to random questions very quickly. First off, like I said before, I don't believe our whole Bardo time took place in a full 3-month gap. But then again, it could. I don't know. If it did, that means all our timelines are now matched up to where Clark has just arrived on Bardo. If not, there could be some time between them graduating to the time that Clark has arrived that we don't know about yet. So I'm just wondering, what do you think that case would be? Second question, who exactly is the enemy that Bardo is preparing to fight? Like I said, I couldn't hear it because the way that their dialogue was muffled with the mask, but was it the planet's atmosphere? Was it what caused the planet to calcify the atmosphere? Well, is it another alien race? What have you? So that's a question there. That also leads me to my other question of the fact that Anders and Levitt keep referring to Octavia and the others as humans, as if like they themselves aren't humans. I'm wondering, like, have they just gotten used to the fact that everyone outside of Bardo is not human first, and then they find out it's human, or are they themselves not human to begin with? Because they seem to also call the original inhabitants of the planet the Bardonians, the originals, kind of a thing. So I'm wondering what the case is there, or maybe do they not consider themselves human because of their own genetic engineering reproductive ways? I don't know. So that's something there. Another question was, why did Echo give Hope the punishment she did? Is she planning something for herself, or is she truly a disciple now and wanted to give her punishment on penance, or was it to give them some time to escape and then get Hope out before she gets to Skyring? I don't know. I really don't know where Echo's loyalties lies at this point. I don't know if she's playing the longer game undercover, or if she really has been brought over to their side. I have no idea. So that's a question there. Another question was, is anyone else waiting for Shaheda's attention to go back to Maddie? I mean, so far he's been trying to get out of his imprisonment, which makes sense. He's trying to gain for more power. But because of his constant fight with Maddie in the previous season, I'm kind of waiting for him to bring focus back to her. Because like when he was asking for, he wants a new chess player to go against, I was kind of waiting for him to suggest Maddie. Because Shaheda wouldn't, or not Shaheda, Indra wouldn't do it. Murphy is tired of doing it. And I was waiting for him to bring up Maddie. Who else was thinking that? So that's something there. And the last question was, do you think the disciples have ever tried to return back to Earth through the Anomaly Stone? Because I know that when Bill first went through it, they thought that it was a one-way door. And that could really just be because of the state of the Earth was in, how it was still filled with radiation. They couldn't go anywhere aside from the bunker. So for them, it would have felt like a one-way trip. But now that Bill has found out that Clark and her people have come from Earth years after the first apocalypse happened, I'm wondering if they are now going to try to open the stone to go back through to Earth, or have they just cut that off as an option? Because I would assume, even though the second nuclear apocalypse has gone off, I would have assumed that the bunker was technically still be intact, or would the fire that burnt through it be a reason as to why anything would have happened as well? So that's something there. Alright, let's move into predictions very quickly. Based off the promo for 7/10, it looks like we're going to get a 2-week hiatus. It's not going to come back until August 5th. So I had to watch it twice, but from what I gathered, Hope is in a cell in her own confinement, I guess waiting for her to be taken to her sentencing on Skyring. She is resistant at one point, so we do see that. We do see Clark and the others back in the stone room with Bill, kind of where we left them off in 708. We do see them talking with Echo about a new war approaching. We do see Clark wondering about what happened to their friends. What did they do to them? We also see Bill having a meal with Gabriel and talking about how sacrifices need to be made to get what they're finally searching for. A little worried about that. We do hear Shaheda's voice talking about wanting to see someone die. Pretty sure that's Indra, I'm assuming. Or it could be Murphy as a prime or something. I don't know. But then also, we do see someone. At first, I thought it was Bellamy, and that's why I got so excited by the promo. But we do see who I assume is Bellamy with a new haircut, with no beard, in a white suit. He's bound, gagged, and very bloody. I thought it was Bellamy. But then when I saw it the second time, it also had me wonder, well, it could also be Levitt as well, too. Just because it could be in the stone room itself. The only reason why I thought it was Bellamy because of the theory that he could be on Etheria, which the planet was actually named for the first time in this episode. So maybe 710 is when we're going to see Bellamy again, or there is the possibility that Levitt's loyalty to Octavia could be what he's being punished for. Who knows? So that's something there. Also, with that though, because it's over 2 weeks before the episode's going to be coming back, there is no synopsis available at the moment. Remember, they only put them out when it's 2 weeks until the episode is there, because so maybe next week we'll get the synopsis coming out. But at the moment of this recording, the synopsis is not posted anywhere. If it's up when I'm editing, then you'll see it up on screen. Pause it if you want to read it fully. So there's that. But otherwise, that is pretty much it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into this. But what did you guys think of the episode? What did you guys like about it? What do you think will happen next? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, theories, and predictions about all of that. Love to see you guys also continue the conversation with me as well as anybody else who makes comments as well. I do appreciate that. I did see that a bit in my 708, so thank you. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. We are halfway through the final season now, which is a little weird, but I'll give you that. Which also makes sense for the hiatus. They usually tend to have that right in the middle point of the season. So there's that. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, check my other videos if you haven't done so already. If you want, check out my Tumblr page. Link for that is down below. Anything I post online is connected to WordPress. It's a work in progress, detailed, connected to Tumblr as well. I'm a little behind. I did update recently up to episode 707, but there's that. I know I just smashed two things together because I was thinking of something else just now, but you get the gist. Otherwise, that is pretty much it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for your patience. I hope you come back in 2 weeks to see what I have to say about the next episode. Until then, guys, this is Mel. Wish you all a great day, great week wherever you are, and take care for now. Bye for now.